Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Kris. This is the Battle of Hanging Rock and Revolutionary War, Andrew Jackson, ? The Liberty Trail. This is another American Battlefield Trust, just came out. I saw it. I actually saw Andrew Jackson, so I was like, yep, I'm doing it. Before we get started, bare minimum. Ooh. Guilford Courthouse, huh? From History Rebels. What's this? Green moves south, the Battle of Hobkirk. Sorry, I should pay attention to the video I'm doing. See me click that thumbs up? Helps me out if you could do that. Look at that. Drops to 264, up to 265. If you could bare minimum click that for me. I always ask bare minimum, and yet it seems to be too much. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Click on the thanks button if you want to keep the channel rolling. Bare minimum. Bare minimum. All right. Let's get at it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Hanging Rock Battlefield, a battlefield that you've helped preserve, a battlefield that we're still trying to preserve. So bear that in mind as we walk across this wonderful, very pristine battlefield. We're here on our journey across and through the Liberty Trail. Be on the lookout as well for many of those videos at the battlefields on the Liberty Trail. We've got Andy Polton behind the camera. I'm Dan Davis, and Rick Wise from the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust, one of our key partners here in South Carolina, is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. Now, I mentioned we're on our journey on the Liberty Trail. You can take this journey as well. You can come here to South Carolina, explore the Revolutionary War sites here in the South Carolina, or you can scan a QR code. Take a look at our Liberty Trail app. That QR code is on one of our brand new signs here at the Hanging Rock Battlefield. We've just installed new signage. You can see, I'm going to ask Andy to pan over. You can see going down into the woods a trail that will take you down to another part of the battlefield. Now, why was Hanging Rock important? Hanging Rock is one of those many garrisons that the British established after the fall of Charleston in the spring of 1780. These garrisons are established to support the operations in the interior of the state, but they're also established, many of them, along the Great Wagon Road. The Great Wagon Road, we've been talking about this in many of our videos, runs through a number of these battlefields. The Great Wagon Road ran from Philadelphia all the way to the Georgia frontier. That road network or series of roads is going to bring both the British and the Continental armies here. But the British are going to come to Hanging Rock. They're actually going to have 3 camps set up here that Rick's going to talk about in just a few minutes. They're going to come here because there's high ground here, but they also have a water source. So this is an ideal place for them to establish one of those outposts. And we're going to take a little bit of a walk over to another interpretive sign here. You can notice the terrain. We're starting to go uphill just a little bit, and the vista is going to open up for you in just a moment. You can see traffic passing by on the highway. That was part of the Great Wagon Road network, again, that would bring travelers from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, all the way down to Georgia and then on to Savannah. So it traversed a large swath of the American colonies. Taking a look here at another one of our new interpretive signs. You'll notice the banner art by our good friend Dale Watson. Go check out his art. Dale's a great guy, great artist, as you can see as well. Now we're going to get up to the crest of this ridge. I'm going to open the ground up for you. The ground is going to open up for you. And I'm going to bring Rick on to talk about these battles. There's actually 2 battles here that are fought in the summer of 1780 as the British are pushing out. They're expanding their control. Their tentacles are moving out from Charleston to try to pacify South Carolina in the hopes of, once they have full control over South Carolina, the British will then advance up into North Carolina, up into Virginia, taking over these southern colonies. And now you can really see the ground start to open up in front of you. Again, there are 3 camps here in the summer of 1780. And to talk more about those camps as well as the action that takes place out here, I'm going to bring on the CEO and Executive Director of the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust, Rick Wise. Rick, all you.
Here in Hanging Rock was one of Thomas Sumter's battles. Thomas Sumter, known as the Gamecock. The action took place here on August 6, 1780, 10 days before the battle at Camden. Thomas Sumter was an outstanding commander. He formed about 1,000 men in his militia, and on that morning he brought somewhere between 800 and 1,200 men here with him. The militia numbers, sometimes you don't have exact counts of the folks that showed up. However, what had happened just before this engagement, Sumter had tried to take a position that the British had over at Rocky Mount. He tried very desperately to burn them out. However, once he set the roof of their fortification on fire, one of the things that happened is a summer rain shower came along and put it out. When the fire went out at Rocky Mount, Sumter retreated. In the meantime, a commander from North Carolina, Major William R. Davie, had brought troops in here and conducted a raid here at Hanging Rock. Once they conducted the raid here, they were very successful and actually disrupted what could have been reinforcements going over to Rocky Mount at that time. The reason I'm setting the conditions here is because Sumter is going to return in what will be the second battle of Hanging Rock. There are 3 camps here. The 3 camps are located in the distance where the tree line is. You would have the camp that was occupied by provincial troops from the Prince of Wales American Regiment. Back here in a center camp, about where the road intersection is on both sides of the road, we believe that is where you had Tarleton's Legion Infantry, as well as you had North Carolina Royalist troops.
I really dislike Bannister Tarleton.
Were located there. And then in the distance on a hill that you cannot really see from here, you would have Bryan's camp. Bryan's camp was occupied by North Carolina militia. Those North Carolina militia numbered about 400. Sumter had a grandiose plan. Sumter's plan was he was going to hit all 3 camps at the same time. Very ambitious plan, considering you're going to be marching at night, getting here early in the morning, and then be able to execute that attack. They were coming down the road that you see in this direction. They were marching down the road. They hit a picket line and they had to go into the woods. When they went into the woods, they had 3 columns. The 3 columns got a little bit discombobulated, and when they did, all of them attacked at the same time, but they attacked at the same location. Sometimes things like that happen, and it turns out for the best. They were able to attack Bryan's camp and drive the militia away. The militia came in this direction towards the middle camp. You had the British Legion Infantry and the other troops there were alerted to what was happening. If you can imagine militia coming across here, they are not attacking shoulder to shoulder and using conventional tactics. They're coming across pretty much each individual fighting with themselves. If they come across here, they're engaging a fence line, and that fence line, you've got British soldiers behind it. Actually, those British soldiers came from behind the fence line and conducted several bayonet charges, driving Sumter's men back. As they drove Sumter's men back, each time Sumter's men were able to push them back behind their fence. Eventually, those troops were driven away. In the meantime, Major John Carden, who commanded the Prince of Wales American Regiment, had marched his men over here, and they occupied a tree line. Sumter himself says they almost turned his right flank. However, instead of those militia running away, as militia were wont to do, what they did is they got themselves behind trees and rocks and engaged with the rifles they had and other weapons and fired with deadly effect. The Prince of Wales American Regiment suffered over 50% casualties. And with over 50% casualties, after this battle, they essentially ceased to exist. You see them show up in different places as a guard force or something like that, but never again as a tactical unit. The British troops went streaming back across the field. They expected an attack, and they formed a square. A square was normally done to protect against cavalry. William R. Davie with his cavalry was here. However, a real attack on that square never took place, primarily because Sumter's men got into the camp. It was an extremely hot day. Water was scarce, and a lot of them got into the room that was in the camp. That's not the only reason that they didn't attack, because to attack the square would have been a formidable feat on their part. William R. Davie also saw that in the distance cavalry was coming. We think that what had happened was cavalry in the form of Tarleton's Legion cavalry was coming from Rocky Mount. They heard the gunfire, and they probably went to approach from the south along the Great Wagon Road to give the impression that there were reinforcements coming from Camden. Davie went over, engaged those troops, and drove them into the woods, so they were really not a factor. At this point, Sumter realizes he is not going to be able to sustain the fight. They've already been fighting for several hours. He's already engaged 2 camps and the major elements from a third. And at this point, they gather all the supplies that they can from here at the middle camp and also from Bryan's camp and begin to make their way back the direction they came.
They pretty much, they hit him, got him to run. The British basically got to a point where they formed their line, that square, and he knew they weren't moving them anymore. Then you don't know what else is coming. You got the cavalry coming, which they were scared off into the woods, but you don't know who else is coming, how many others are going to be behind them, because, you know, cavalry can move much faster than just the soldiers who could be, I'll say marching, but could be kind of running, not full speed, but running to get there, to back up whatever's happening. You don't know how many men that is. So after a couple hours, your boys are getting into the rum. You have to retreat. Otherwise, this is going to turn into they're going to take us as prisoners because our guys are drunk and just laying around. And what's to stop them? I mean, it's Tarleton. What's to stop someone like him from just, you know what? Let's just kill him. Just kill everyone who surrendered. Let's just kill them. So, yeah, you got to end it while you can. Attack, hit. You got them to the point where you know, okay, they're not moving anymore. Now you can get out of there. It's a win-win.
When the British saw them leaving, they gave a shout. God save King George. Sumter's men gave a shout. God save George Washington. When that happened, the battle was over. Both sides claimed victory. In the rules of the day, who owned the ground won the battle. However, we got to remember these were partisan troops. They weren't trying to hold the ground. They were trying to disrupt the British, and they did an outstanding job. As Thomas Sumter...
It was a hit and run. They had no desire to take. It was just a hit and run. So the British can get the credit for the victory. British can get credit for the victory, like they did at Breed's Hill, commonly known now as it's referred to as Bunker Hill, but the battle was on Breed's Hill. They get the credit for the victory because the rebels fled. They killed 400 of the colonials. That doesn't sound right. The Americans. There you go. They killed 400 of them. I think it was 400, but they lost over 1,000. Yeah, they can claim victory because in the end they did take that hill, but was it worth it? Even in Britain, they were saying a few more victories like this and we won't have a military left. So even they saw the irony of claiming victory for what? You can't claim victory for that. That was a terrible decision to keep charging up that hill. You know, it's ego and pride because you're not the one leading the charge. You have your guys doing it.
Himself said if there had been a Continental officer in charge of this, it would be a great national victory, but it was never heralded as so. However, it was a victory that changed the outcome of the war here in South Carolina and gained our nation their liberty later on.
Thanks, Rick. That was fantastic. Thank you for joining us on our journey through the Liberty Trail. We're going to be heading off to some other spots here around Hanging Rock, then heading up north, pushing up into South Carolina, almost to North Carolina, at a very famous, or rather infamous place called the Waxhaws. I'm Dan Davis with the American Battlefield Trust for Rick Wise and Andy Polton.
The Waxhaws is where Andrew Jackson was from. So, and it was Tarleton. It pretty much was up in that area.
Behind the camera, thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting battlefield preservation and education. All right, folks, as we're leaving the Hanging Rock battlefield, we wanted to bring you down here and show you not only a unique geological formation, but a unique area of history as well. This area is known as Shelter Rock. Why was it known as Shelter Rock? Because a teenager on the staff of William Richardson Davie is going to hold the militia horses here during the Battle of Hanging Rock. And that teenager's name was Andrew Jackson. Yes, that Andrew Jackson. The Andrew Jackson who fought in the War of 1812 and future President of the United States. Jackson grew up just
Never heard of him.
Several miles up the road here on the border of North and South Carolina in the Waxhaws region. And the American Revolution is going to take a tremendous cost on Andrew Jackson's family. He's going to lose a brother from heat stroke at the Battle of Stono Ferry in 1779. He's going to be imprisoned with another brother in Camden. They're both going to contract smallpox. Sadly, that brother is also going to succumb to that disease. And his mother, Elizabeth.
On this corner stood the GAOL. Sorry, that was my stomach. Built in 1771 and burned in 1812 during the Revolution. The British imprisoned in it many American soldiers and civilians. Among them, after his capture near the Waxhaws, was the boy Andrew Jackson. Later 7th president, he is said to have watched the Battle of Hobkirk Hill through a hole he cut in the wall of the Gaol's second story. I just feel like I'm butchering it.
Sadly, that brother is also going to succumb to that disease. And his mother, Elizabeth, is going to contract ship's fever or cholera while she's treating Continental Army prisoners of war in Charleston Harbor. Jackson is going to be left orphaned by the American Revolution. And in that moment, as he's left without family, there's going to rise a very deep-seated hate for the British, a hate that he's going to carry on into the War of 1812. And the War of 1812 is an opportunity for Jackson to get personal payback on the British.
Greene moved south for the battle of, and he witnessed that whole battle through the hole. Interesting. I'll probably end up doing that one too. All right. Gonna end the battle. I'm gonna end the battle here. Battle's over. and the video. And I hope you enjoyed. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night. Oh, and if you have other battles that you, let me know, please. I want to see them. All right, till next time.